This is FBG Jenn.
And FBG Kristen.
And I'm FBG Margo, host and producer. You're listening to the podcast that will help you keep a lid on the junk in the trunk and inspire you to live a happy and confident life.
Each episode, we chat with motivational experts and celebs and share our own candid adventures in being healthy.
If you're looking for a podcast that's equal parts hilarious and enlightening, well then welcome to the Fit Bottomed Girls podcast.
Today's episode is sponsored by Love My Skivvies, a monthly subscription service for undies that are as cute as they are comfy. And ladies, these are designed for workouts and your everyday life. Just pick your size and your style, and you'll never have to think about what's in your panty drawer again, because badass women need panties that live up to our adventures. Now, let's get into the show. Welcome back to the Fit Bottomed Girls podcast. This is FBG Margo, and on the line today, we have FBG Jenn.
Hey.
And we have FBG Kristen.
Yo.
And today, Jenn and I we did this interview together. It's with Siri Daly, and she is lovely. She is the wife of Carson Daly, who's on the Today Show and The Voice, but she's also, in her own right, she's a great food blogger, and she created this cookbook that is gorgeous. I love this cookbook that she created, and so she's on the show today to talk about that. And then it turns out, Jenn, you and I both have stories about TRL, and Carson Daly used to be the host of TRL back in the day. So what is your TRL story?
Oh my gosh, back in the day. I also love how, like, in the beginning of this interview, we don't really talk about Carson Daly that much because it really is about her.
Yes,
and you never even know that she was, like, married to a celebrity, even though she is a celebrity in her own right because she's, like, on the Today Show. Like you were saying, she's, got this cookbook and everything. But it's funny when she does start kind of talking about him because it like, made me flash back to when I got to be in the audience of TRL. So I was in college as part of I was in journalism school, part of the magazine club I was in. Every year we would take a trip to New York City and we get to tour all of these cool magazine offices. And we went to like GQ because we had a bunch of alum from Mizzou that were in all these places. And so they set up interviews and stuff. So we got to meet the editor of GQ. We got to go to like Cosmo, like a bunch of different places. It was so fun. But one day we're on this trip, we're walking down the street and we're, dressed like we're going to magazine offices. So we look, like business casual, but walking around, well, at least we think so. And this guy comes up to us, a group of me and a few other fellow students, and is like, hey, do you guys want to be in the audience of TRL today? And we're like, well, we don't have to be anywhere for another like 2 hours. Sure. And so we come up and they don't tell you, I think this is similar to your experience, Margaret, where they don't tell you who's going to be on the show or who was. I act like the show's still on TV. Like they didn't tell you who was going to be on the show until you were in the audience and they like come out. So you get like a really strong reaction from the crowd, I imagine, and it's exciting. And of course the studio is like super tiny. So we wait forever. It was right after the Winter Olympics. And this was in 2002. And we're standing there waiting. And I was like really hoping for, like, well, I'll be honest, like a pop star, like a boy band, because those are the TRL days. But Apollo Ono came out, the very decorated Olympian speed skater. And he was super cool. And it was just one of those things where I was like, oh my God, I'm standing like 10 feet from Carson Daly and an Olympian, and this is so cool. And it was just such a surprise. It was just a really, really cool thing. And of course, I called all of my friends that were back home and I was like, watch TRL today, I'm going to be on TV. And I was on TV for like a millisecond. It was cool. What's your story, Margo?
So it was a couple of years before that, and it was Mariah Carey had an album called The Number Ones, and basically it was all of her. She had a bunch of number one songs, in the 90s. And
I remember that.
Yeah, and it was funny because I had a friend that worked at a record company in PR, and they said, Mariah can't do TRL in the day. It was a live show. They said they're actually going to tape a show just for her for TRL. And it's going to be on a Sunday afternoon. Do you want to go? And I brought a couple of friends with me. And we're like, yeah, okay, we'll go. And we looked so much more normal than her fans who were like rabid fans. Like they looked like they're panting. Like they just couldn't wait to see her. So we actually sat really close to her, because they wanted like more normal people. She shows up 2 hours late. And then she looked beautiful, by the way. And Carson was so lovely the way he dealt with her, because immediately as soon as she sits down, she goes, I'm hungry. And they're like, Mariah's hungry. Where do we get Mariah food? So somebody goes, we have pretzels. She goes, okay. So they bring in pretzels, and then she looks at it and she just turns up her nose. She goes, flavored pretzels, please. So they had to go out and find flavored pretzels for Mariah. And oh my God. And then when they brought them, she ate like 2 or 3 of them. She goes, oh, that's good. And then she just put it away. And then the rest of the time, she just did the interview, and she was perfectly lovely and fine. But that, between the 3 of my 3 friends, whenever we're dealing with someone who's high maintenance, we just go, flavored pretzels. And it just immediately brings us back to Mariah, my friend's a mom now. So when her kid's being a pain in the ass, she's just like, oh, it's a flavored pretzels day. So anyway.
That's hilarious. Yeah. I'll never look at flavored pretzels the same way again.
So, yeah. So, Kristen, that's my TRL story, and that's Jen's TRL story.
Awesome. I love it.
And also, that's awesome. You guys, I am going to be at a podcast convention in August in New Orleans. And
Yay!
Yeah. So I'm going to be representing for Book versus Movie and also for the Fit Bottom Girls. And it's August 10th, 11th, 12th in New Orleans. And if you guys are interested, you go to the website podern.love. And you could check out, there's a bunch of independent podcasts that are going to be up there. You can meet me. For now, they have me scheduled 9 a.m. Saturday. So we'll see who shows up for that. If it's we'll either do a workout, or if it's a bunch of hungover people, we'll just walk and get a coffee or something. I'm open either way. I've never been to New Orleans. I am super, super psyched. So if you guys are interested, go check it out. Podern.love. They have a special rate for the hotel room. And if you use the code FIT, you get a discount on your tickets. So I just wanted to, if you wanted to meet FBG Margo, that's where I'm going to be. And I'll be sweating like crazy. So just tell me I look pretty.
In August in New Orleans, you will be, yes.
Yeah, everyone will be.
Yeah. So I guess
awesome. And I'll just say that Margo is a delight. So if you're in the area or you're going, you should meet Margo. She is awesome.
Thank you. All right, so let's get right into our interview today with Siri. Remember, this episode is sponsored by Love My Skivvies, a monthly subscription service for undies that we absolutely adore. Ladies, you got to check them out at lovemyskivvies.com. Okay, that's LUVMYSKIVVIES.com. And for being a listener, you can even save 25% off your first month. Just enter the code FBG, that's for Fit Bottom Girls, FBG, at checkout, and you're good to go. Again, that's lovemyskivvies.com, LUVMYSKIVVIES.com. Siri Daly is always thinking one meal ahead. Like many parents trying to feed their families, Siri's a very busy cook who churns out daily meals for her 3 kids, all under the age of 10, and her bi-coastal husband, Carson Daly, of The Voice and Today Show. While momming hard and loving it, the decision to write about food on her blog, Seriously Delicious, was a no-brainer. Food has always been her passion. She is on the show today to talk about her debut cookbook, Seriously Delicious, 100 nutritious and not so nutritious simple recipes for the real home cook. Welcome to the show, Siri.
Hello. Thank you for having me, guys.
Well, thanks for being on the show today. This is FBG Margo, and on the line today we have FBG Jenn.
Hello.
I want to start with your new cookbook, which arrived yesterday, and I want to tell you guys it's gorgeous. It's called Seriously Delicious. It's your first cookbook, but your 4th baby, as we were saying off the air.
It's my 4th child.
It's your 4th child. So tell us all about what got you started with food writing. First you had your blog, and now you have this gorgeous book.
That's right. Yeah. I started my food blog, also called Seriously Delicious, about 8 years ago. It was sort of shortly after my first child was born. And I had always thought I'd go back to work, but I don't know, something after, everything changes after you have a kid. So I couldn't quite go back into the office setting. And I knew I needed to do something creative, and I missed that whole aspect. So I started my food blog for, 2 reasons: to kind of keep that creative voice flowing. And then also I was suddenly like, oh, I have to keep this little small human alive and feed him every day, and my husband and whatnot. So I was in this domestic setting suddenly, and I wanted to keep track of what I was cooking. And I've always loved food. I've loved eating. I've loved cooking. And I just think it's fun. And I know a lot of people kind of get intimidated by the recipe process. So with my food blog, I kind of wanted to strip it all down and just share mistakes along the way and triumphs. And then over time, that kind of just translated into this cookbook.
Wow, that's really cool. Can you talk a little bit about what goes on behind the scenes when you create a cookbook? Because I think that process, like, it is a beautiful cookbook. And I know from people that
Thank
have
you.
written them, it takes so much time and work. What was
It
that
does.
process like for you?
It was crazy. It was a foreign process to me because it's my first, obviously. So, I guess, the initial process is kind of figuring out, what obviously, your angle is going to be, and then what recipes you want to include. I included about, I would say maybe 30 to 40% of recipes from my blog. But then, they were all kind of revamped and retwisted. And then I decided to create, about 60% of new, fresh recipes. So that whole process is one thing, just like the development. Then comes the fun part, eating and tasting and developing the actual recipes. And I worked with a great team of people at Time Inc. And it's really always like a team effort. It's not like just you alone. At least it wasn't for me, slaving away all day long. But it was amazing. It was so much fun. I did that last spring because, when you get into ruts over what you're going to cook, like that time of my life was amazing because I knew exactly what I was going to eat every day because I was testing out all of these recipes. And then comes, the photography, and we did, the cover shot last summer, and all the what they call lifestyle photography, which is, I wanted my family to be, part of the book because it's all about family, and it's all about, my life, and I really wanted it to show a real snapshot of what it's like to be a mom and to try to, churn out daily meals. So that's why even on the cover you'll see a little Chelsea doll, little Barbie doll sitting in a mason jar lid.
I noticed that. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean, and I have my phone in my back pocket. It's just, I wanted it to feel real as it can feel, even though I'm oh, now I'm making fried chicken and blogging at the same time. But and yeah, then after that is the writing, and that process was my favorite process, but definitely the hardest and the longest process, because I really wanted to tell a story with each recipe, because that's what food is to me. It really is a creative process of sharing food with people you love, and each recipe really does have a story in the book. And I like to kind of keep it light and fun and not so serious. So there's the pun on my name. Don't take everything so seriously. So
fans of puns.
Puns are fun.
Yeah.
I did not like puns when I was a kid, though. I hated, people would always say, "Are you serious?" or "Do you want some cereal?" And but now
changed your name.
I'm embracing it.
Fun, yeah.
So yeah, the writing process was awesome, and now it's all happening. So it's very exciting.
So you're a self-taught chef, correct?
Exactly. I'm just I mean, I wouldn't even refer to myself as a chef. I'm a self-taught, passionate home cook. I didn't go to culinary school. I watched the Food Network for my entire 20s, that whole decade. And I'm, an avid cookbook reader. And before I started my own food blog, and even now, I still look at tons of other blogs. And I guess a foodie, if you want to call it. I just love food. I love the whole process. I love learning new things. I love when there's a recipe that is going around breaking the internet and you just have to try it. The whole thing. I love it.
So my follow-up is there one recipe that you mastered that just made you feel like such a rock star? Do you remember what that was?
Well, early on, and this sounds probably silly, but it was probably a pesto sauce, early on, because I don't know, there was something about that just seemed so sort of fancy to me at that time in my life. And when I realized how simple it is to make your own sauce and salad dressing and things that you kind of just always take for granted, well, I'm gonna, I buy that at the store. It's no, actually you can make these on your own. But as far as a pretty kind of complex recipe, I will definitely say it was beef bourguignon, and I used Julia Child's recipe when my son was 6 months old, because back when it's your first child, you celebrate every month of their birthday. At least we did.
Yep.
And to an we had balloons and cake every month.
Aww.
And his 6-month birthday happened to be Julia Child's birthday, August 15th. So I was and I had just seen the movie Julie and Julia, and so I I made that. And then over time, and there's the recipe in my book, I've kind of, twisted it into my own. It's a slow cooker version, actually. So it kind of saves you with time and all that stuff, but it's equally delicious. So yeah, I would say that.
That's awesome. That's pretty epic, really.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier that every recipe has a story, and clearly that recipe, has a story. Mm-hmm. Is there another recipe and story that really stands out to you that you might want to share with us?
Well, there is a certain recipe that is always a huge hit that's in the book. They're called Lucy's ham sandwiches, or sticky ham sandwiches. And Lucy was my very dear friend's mother, and she was actually my mom's very close friend. And, I grew up in Minnesota, and she would always make these sandwiches. So the recipe is really inspired by her, but she unfortunately passed away from Alzheimer's early Alzheimer's. And so that recipe is definitely like one that I hold dear because, and I write about it in the book, because she was just this dynamic, lovely woman that everybody adored. And it makes me so happy that over the years, as I've shared this recipe on my blog, like people now, it's like their go-to, and they call it Lucy's ham sandwiches, was just like makes me just feel so happy that her memory is being carried on in this way. So that would be probably one where that, story really feels meaningful.
Isn't it amazing how food can almost kind of like transcend time in so many ways? Because I think so many of us, have those memories attached to food and recipes, and kind of like almost when you're missing someone, you can kind of like make their dish or something and kind of feel like, I love that. That's so beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Totally. The ingredients, the visual aspect of it, the smells, like it can take you back and completely, make you think of something or a time or a place. Yeah, I love that.
If we were to go over and just take a little peek into your fridge right now, what are the staples you could say we could always find there?
Well, we have like probably 12 bottles of hot sauce of all different kinds. I don't know why, but I do know why. Like each one is very important for different reasons. We've got like our Louisiana hot sauce. We've got the sriracha. We've got the Cholula with the chipotle, and then the regular, Tabasco. It's ridiculous. Like we have a whole shelf of hot sauce, and my kids don't eat. Well, that's not true. My son is actually starting to some hot sauce on like his quesadillas and stuff, but I'm not saying you need 12 hot sauces, by the way. I'm just telling you, being honest about my fridge. Although I think you should have at least sriracha, because that's just one of my favorite things in the world. And let's see, I always have a big chunk of fresh Parmesan cheese instead of, like the pre-grated stuff, because first of all, it lasts forever. So you're going to really actually save money if you buy like, even though it seems expensive, it can be like whatever, like a $10 chunk of cheese. Like it will last you for months and months and months. And it's so much better when you just kind of grate it over anything like cheese, pasta, salads, soups, whatever it is. So I always have that. I always have arugula, because I'm obsessed with arugula. And I probably eat it every day, and avocados as well, although I don't keep those in my fridge. We have Bloody Mary mix. Can I talk about that?
Awesome.
And that's your husband's recipe, right? He has his own Bloody Mary mix, or his own Bloody Mary recipe that you
He does.
Do we have in the book?
It's become sort of famous over time. Although it's funny, that's a funny story, because he doesn't want to tell me his actual recipe. So like I had to kind of like just go for it and get as close as I could. And I think I did really well, but he's just very like, oh, sure, go put it in my book, but I'm not giving you any pointers. he like, it's his baby, his fourth baby, that Bloody Mary recipe, but it's so good. And like everywhere we go, people request it. Even people that like don't usually like Bloody Marys, there's just something about it that is great.
I'm gonna have to make that.
Yeah.
Weekend to
Sunday
do.
Fun day. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So do your kids cook with you? Does your husband cook with you, or is cooking like more of like me time for you?
No, they do. I mean, it's both. I definitely love to have that me time, but I love to get them involved, and they're definitely becoming more and more interested in it. And especially with baking, that's kind of where at least the girls, my younger two, the girls want to help me out. And obviously they want to just eat the cookie dough or whatever we're making, but they love to pour things. They love to crack the eggs. so they have a lot of fun doing that. And my son, who is 9, he really is showing more of an interest in like, cooking things on the stove. He can make his own quesadilla. He can make scrambled eggs. He likes to kind of chop. My mother had given him like a good knife for kids for Christmas. So he has fun doing those things. And we just like always seem to just gather in the kitchen. So even if they're not helping, they're just kind of there at the island, and we're all, Carson's either playing bartender, or he does a lot of the grilling in the house. So, it definitely can be a team family effort.
So your husband is Carson Daly, and he is on the Today Show. And there are times you're a contributor to the show, so the two of you will be on air making recipes. And I wanted to ask you, what's it like to prepare a meal in front of millions of people? Like, do you ever get nervous?
Yes, I always get nervous. I'm always waiting for like the one day when I don't feel nervous, but it hasn't happened yet. But it really is. It's such a family atmosphere there, and I've come to know the crew and the anchors, and they really take the pressure off, because you do sort of feel like you're just kind of at home, and you can kind of forget, at least right before they go live, that people are watching. At least I try to forget that, and it does help to cook with Carson, because it feels very natural, and it feels like we're kind of mimicking an experience at home. But no, there are definitely times that I feel like I black out. Segment's over and I'm like, okay, what just happened? Don't know. Because it's fast. I mean, and you don't know how much time you're going to get until right before, because if they're running late, with the show, and they're like, okay, you just went from 4 minutes to 2 minutes. So have fun. Bye. You're 1, 2, 3 live. And so you just kind of have to go with it and just do the best you can.
That's intense.
Yeah.
So I've always wondered, with all the food, like when you're on there making a segment and you like make the food and everyone's like eating the food and like, this is delicious, does everyone get to take it home? Do you take it home?
Oh, it's so funny. I don't usually, but people from out of nowhere, like the second we're not live, producers and crew, they just show up. I don't even know where they come from, with Tupperware, and they're just putting stuff in Tupperware. It's like a competition, like who can get there the fastest and like, fill up their Tupperware, and then they leave and go back to 30 Rock. They have their lunch. It's hilarious. Yeah.
That is funny. That's really funny.
Which is, I would do that if I were them, and I had
totally
to, go back to my like.
Yeah, and you have like these amazing, chefs and
Right.
everyone on like making food. Yeah.
You used to work in television full time, and I think that's how you met your husband.
Yes.
What's been the biggest adjustment about being a full-time mom? I mean, obviously you're a cookbook writer and you are busy, but what's the difference between going to, an office every day versus your life now?
I mean, I think this was 9 years ago now, but I know it was definitely a difficult adjustment for me, because I didn't quite have a plan. I knew, like, I thought I was maybe going to go back to work. And then, as I kind of mentioned earlier, everything sort of, your whole mindset changes. And so I think my biggest adjustment was just trying to balance it all and find time for myself, because obviously when you're working, you're focused on that. You're focused on your job or your task, and it's kind of more all about, yourself and what you need to get done. And when you're just, when you're at home, it's very easy to just kind of be absorbed by your kids and just get and focus on that, and sort of almost feel like you're not like worthy of your own time. At least I struggled with that a lot when Jack was little. And it took me a while to figure out that balance and to realize, hey, it's okay. And actually it's better for everyone if mommy gets out of the house for a while, and mommy does her nails, and mommy goes and runs or whatever, goes to the grocery store by herself, whatever, you just need to do something that makes you feel good, that has nothing to do with your family. And it just, it took a while for me to kind of figure that out and find that balance.
Yeah, I only have I have a 3-year-old, and
Okay.
yeah, I feel like I sometimes have to just be incredibly like I almost feel selfish. Like I have to be like, no, I have to be selfish about like this 30 minutes of my day is only about me.
But it's not selfish. I think that's
Right.
what the problem is. Like we feel like it's selfish, but it's not. Like you'll be a better mom if. Yeah. I mean, I've had those moments where I come home and I literally sit in my car for like 20 minutes before I go into the house, and I'm just like, this is quiet, and I can just listen to the radio for just like 20 more minutes.
Right.
But you just like, we have to do what we do to keep ourselves sane and to be better humans and moms and all that stuff.
Exactly. And obviously when we take time for ourselves, like you said, you're better at everything.
Yeah.
So nowadays, what is a typical day like for you? And I understand that may be kind of a little bit difficult to answer if you're like on the show or not, or writing or whatever.
Well, right.
But
yeah. Now, this year was kind of a big adjustment because my middle child went to kindergarten. So now it's like 2 of them, like on a weekday, are gone from 8:30 to 3:30. But the mornings are always hectic because Carson is at the Today Show, and it's just me in the mornings, and it's just like I've gotten it down to a routine. But like, you never know how your kids are going to wake up. They're either happy or they're like extremely moody or they're not hungry, and I'm force feeding one child and the other one is able to eat on her own, and it's just like always a challenge of making lunches, making sure that their homework was done from the night before, because sometimes we have to do some of it in the morning, and just getting dressed, like our bus comes at a certain time, and I'm like, we will not miss the bus. Like, I will not drive you. I will not get stuck in that routine. So I'm pretty strict about just getting them out of the house. And then I drive my youngest to like a little preschool, and it's like, oh, okay, I can breathe now for a little bit. And I've been doing a bar class like, a couple times a week, which is a new thing for me in the last couple of years, but it's been so amazing to like, again, like it's time. What I think I love about it so much is not only because I never used to really work out. So it's not even just the working out, but it's like I only focus on myself and my body for an hour. I don't think about anything else. It's like completely mind clearing, almost like meditative in a way. So I try to do that a couple times a week. And then I'm horrible at meal planning. So maybe I'll have to go to the store like the 3rd time in the week. And if, like you said, if I have the show, I'll go in, early with Carson. And, lately I've been pretty busy with all the book promotions and stuff like that. So every day is a little different. We have a fabulous nanny that comes a little bit. Her schedule is different every week, but, so we can make it all work. It takes a village.
It does.
It does.
It really does.
Okay, so speaking of villages, this is my segue. So we're talking about social media, and you and your friends started an Instagram account called Real Moms Wear Gray.
Yes.
Can you please talk about that?
So that started, the Real Moms Wear Gray idea was a phrase that 2 friends and I, so the 3 of us, started saying to each other and we live all across the country. One is in California, one is in Wisconsin, and I'm out on the East Coast. So all day long, we kind of like would text each other, and we would be sending each other pictures of like just kind of maybe embarrassing mom moments, or we would take a selfie and say, hey, look, I'm still in my sweats. And we kind of developed this just catchphrase, like, well, we are always wearing gray. Real moms wear gray. But what I wanted to do with the Instagram account was create like a safe space for people to feel like they can go check out the feed and see any sort of mom moment, whether it's embarrassing, frustrating, infuriating, prideful, tearful, and just sort of feel like, okay, we're not alone in this. I had been following, other accounts, and some of them they just seemed way too cookie cutter perfect, and it started to make me feel bad about myself. And I was like, wait a second, why am I, first of all, I'm being judgmental with them and with myself. And I just didn't like that feeling. So I wanted Real Moms Wear Gray to be sort of a just real stripped down sort of image of parenting. And so throughout the day, if people use the hashtag Real Moms Wear Gray, I'll find photos and repost them. And, they're everything, like I said, from funny to sweet to, like infuriating. And it's just a real snapshot of parenting, basically.
That's awesome. Yep. Highs, low lows,
Yep.
everything in between.
Yep.
Yep. It's never a dull moment.
Exactly.
I love that. I may, we have an account, Fit Bottomed Mama. So maybe we'll use your hashtag a little bit.
Exactly.
We got some real moms wear gray moments for sure. Mm-hmm. I would love to know, on the topic of motherhood, how is it, like, there's definitely a shift that happens. Like you think motherhood's going to be a certain way, and then your mom, like, okay, that's a little different. How is motherhood different than you thought it was going to be in your experience?
Well, I always say that I was such a good mom before I had kids. Because you think like you have it all figured out. You're like, well, I won't do this, and I will definitely not do this. And then suddenly, your kids come and you're like, oh my God. Like, I mean, it's such a huge question because it's just so life-changing. And I think that my favorite parts about it is how it really just took all of the focus and petty, trivial things that you kind of felt about yourself maybe prior to having kids. It like those just disappear, and you realize that like life means so much more, and there's such a bigger, purpose out there. And then you get to just watch these little like people grow and form into personalities. And I don't know. So, I mean, I don't know what I thought it was going to be like, but I thought that, my kids would never watch too much TV, and they would, I would never cook more than one meal at night because I'm not going to do that. And of course, my kids are, as I'm talking to you, they're probably all on their iPads. How else could I talk right now? And I don't know. It's such a hard question to answer,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So where are you thinking of going in the future with this food career? Are you looking hopefully to have a Food Network show of your own? Or what were you hoping for?
I'm just kind of taking it day by day. I mean, my youngest she has one more year left of preschool, then she's in kindergarten. And then it's like, wow, they're all gone for 8 hours a day. And I might, try to figure out a bigger step at that point. But, I mean, writing a cookbook was such a huge life goal for me. And so I'm just kind of focusing on that right now. And, the Today Show is still a surreal experience for me. I feel so grateful to be, I mean, I grew up watching it. And so I still have to pinch myself that, I get to do that from time to time, and just have to take it. I can get very overwhelmed when I try to think too much into the future. And so I'm just sort of like, okay, just be happy right now and grateful and present, and we'll see what happens.
Did you watch TRL back in the day?
So
I have to know.
This is actually funny. I mean, so I did. I was like, I graduated from high school in 99. So it was like major, like the peak of its success. But my brother and sister, they were twins, and they were 4 years younger than me. And actually my sister, and she watched it way more than I did. And in fact, I was like, I don't know what I was. I was like this weird goody girl for a while. And I was really into country music for this little phase of my life. And I would make fun of her for watching TRL.
Wow.
That's funny.
I'd be like, this is gross. Why are you watching this? And acted like I was some 90-year-old grandma. MTV is bad. So it's really funny. And I actually, then I had video record, whatever you would call them, these camera recorders. What were those called? Those things?
What? I'm blanking too. Yeah.
Yeah, like a
camcorder.
Camcorder. I had and I had a VHS tape that I grabbed of my sister's, and I had some friends over, and we made stupid little silly videos with the camcorder. And this day or a couple years ago, watched that, and I realized that what I had taped over was a TRL episode. So I'm like, oh, little did I know. Yeah. But I tell
Awesome.
Carson all that. I think he actually enjoys it, that I wasn't a giant fan.
That's funny. How do you guys manage, schedules? Because if he's up in the morning of the Today Show, but then he also goes to the West Coast, right?
Yeah. I mean, he's when he's not doing The Voice, it's pretty actually manageable because he's up early, of course, but then he comes home pretty early and has most of the day. So we're really lucky in that sense where we're able to really pretty much eat together every night. He's not home late, but then of course he has to go to bed at 8:00 because he's so tired.
Right.
But then, it does get a little hectic when the show is live, because he'll go back and forth, for 6 or 7 weeks in a row. But we've got it kind of just down to we just know it's a routine, and the kids are used to it now, and I'm used to it. And I don't know if he's used to it. His body's always like, what time zone am I on? But,
yeah,
but we make it through. Yeah.
Yeah. You just sit down with your calendars and schedules, be like, okay,
exactly,
this is 30 minutes, and you do this. And yeah.
And the show the thing with The Voice is that it's always overlapping. So he's doing one season, and then suddenly the blind auditions for the next season will overlap with the other season. So it's just, there's like no break. It's just constant.
I didn't know that.
Wow, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
That's intense.
Yeah.
Yes, it's very intense. He has like 2 months of the year where like there is nothing voice related. So we like those months. Yeah.
Well, I do love that show.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. It's so fun.
Yeah.
So, Jen, do you have any more questions?
No, I think if there's anything else you want to maybe leave our listeners with, and then Margo, you want to ask the final question?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. This is the most important question of all. Siri.
I'm scared.
Okay, Siri, what was the last song you listened to before you did this podcast interview?
Oh my gosh, it was Meghan Trainor.
Ooh.
Is it called No Excuses? Your mama taught you better than that
yes.
one. That one.
Yes.
Please
That's
pretend
good.
I didn't just sing. Yeah.
That's a great answer.
Very FBG.
It was that song.
Well, thank you so much for doing the show today. And this is your first Skype interview, so we feel very excited.
It was. Thank you, guys. It was so much fun to talk to you.
Love this show? Tell us why in a 5-star review on iTunes, and we'll read it on the air. Also, make sure you are a subscriber. If you want to reach out to say hi or have a question about a recent episode, yay, well, feel free to email us at podcast@fitbottomgirls.com. And if this podcast jives perfectly with your brand, consider sponsoring the show. Get more info by emailing advertising@fitbottomgirls.com. Find all kinds of Fit Bottom goodness online and on social media at Fit Bottom Girls, Fit Bottom Mamas, Fit Bottom Eats, and Fit Bottom Zen. And if books and movies are your thing, check out the other podcast I co-host called Book versus Movie, which you can find anywhere where you search for podcasts. Thanks for listening.